Hello, everybody. Brandee Sweesy here with BrandeeSweesy.com and HangoutsForBusiness.com. I am beyond excited. I cannot believe how long it has been since I've actually done an hangout. So this is pretty fascinating. And I also forgot how hard it is to do one by yourself. So I have Michael behind the scenes. He's one of the elite producers of Hangouts for Business Producers Academy. He's helping me out behind the scenes, making sure everything was working. And like every good producer, he was telling me, no, move to the left, move to the right, fix your lighting, fix your audio. No, this is kind of, a little bit strange. So as always, Hangouts 101, something will inevitably go wrong. As it does, there was a little scramble with the cameras, but you know what it is? Oh, now I'm hearing myself in the background here. So yes. Anyway, okay, there we go. It's because I had the other window open. Even though I have a producer, I was being a bit of a control freak with the other one going on. So I just heard myself playing on the website. So anyway, I've already gotten a couple of questions. I'm going to get to those. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know there's about a 45-second to 1-minute delay between what I'm actually saying and what you're hearing. So if you'll start posting your questions now, that would be great. A couple of things would really help me out to make sure that I'm going to serve you the best during this hangout is to tell me what industry you're in, what are your goals with a hangout. So maybe it's to build authority, maybe it's to do a webinar and sell products, a couple of different things. So it would really help me if you start posting those questions now, and then I'm going to go ahead and roll into a little bit of the content. So, and then I have to put my glasses on because Brandee dictates that I have to have my glasses to be able to see. I don't like the whole part of these things about who am I. A lot of people call me the Hangout marketing expert. The fact is, please do not confuse that with G+ expert. I am not a G+ expert. There are plenty of them out there. Do I think that you need to learn Google+ at some point? Absolutely you do. When you do, I'm sure you'll be more than happy to hit me up and let me know. Really what got me on the map with Hangouts was I really got the idea of how to market Hangouts properly and to understand the psychology of Hangouts. So, again, should you learn G+? Yes, absolutely. Get over there, learn it, rock it, roll it, do all that stuff. But really, I'm more about how do you market your Hangouts and really get the most out of it for your business. I'll be going to a social media marketing world here in San Diego in March. I'm speaking there about Google Hangouts. Next week I'll be at Yannick Silver's 10th annual Underground speaking. So as you can see, a lot of people are really starting to jump into Hangouts. And then also, that was my big claim to fame here on January 11th, was I actually got to produce Jordan Belfort, the Real Wolf of Wall Street's Hangout. So that was really a lot of fun and very exciting and very intimidating. But, I only show that not to brag, but more to tell you that, everyone's getting on them. No one is, neglecting Hangouts anymore. It was only just a few short months ago. I'll come back to you now. It was only a few short months ago that I was out there on the bleeding edge going, Hangouts, 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 and everybody was like, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't really want to do it. And now everyone's jumping into it. So one of the biggest things that I really want to talk about is, like with all industries, you really need to understand the why. So we talk about this a lot in marketing, and you hear a lot of internet marketers tell you this. You really need to understand the why you're getting into Hangouts before you just jump in. Now, I love fast action takers, but really to understand like what Hangouts are, how they really do, what the effect is that they're having on the industry, and to really understand the psychology. So one of the things I talk about a lot in a lot of my stage talks is that, blogging really brought about the transparency and the authenticity, really people being able to share themselves. And that's why blogging became really popular. And then the next phase of that was the teleseminars. So we got to hear someone's voice, and we got to hear them laugh, and we really got to interact with them. So we felt a little bit closer to them. And then the next phase of development, there was the go-to webinar. So I could hear your voice and I could see visuals. So that kind of closed in a little bit as well. Then the next thing was YouTube marketing, right? Remember Gary Vee? I mean, he rose to overnight success, just doing his wine TV every week because people really started to feel like they could get to know him. Well, then what happened was everybody got really fancy schmancy with all of their YouTube videos, with intros and outros and jump cuts and different things like that. And what happens with that is you kind of widen your empathy gap between who you're trying to serve and, the person that you're trying to get your message to. We all have a message that we want to share and people that we want to help as entrepreneurs. So we really want to try to close that empathy gap. And that's really what Hangouts ended up being. It's kind of like a wine TV. It's a lot more casual. You saw me, very transparently saying I was having tech issues. Something will inevitably go wrong. There might be an audio video delay, or something might break. I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's technology, and it's free technology. But, that also helps that you feel like you get to know me. You get to live interact with me live right now, and so that's what really Hangouts is, the psychological impact of that. Now, on the flip side of that is it is YouTube marketing on nitrous. And that's the piece that I think a lot of people are missing. Hangouts tend to rank higher than your standard YouTube video. We know YouTube video, and we've heard a lot about YouTube marketing. But really, Hangouts have changed the landscape of what video marketing is. I mean, Google, YouTube, Google, and it's Google's baby. I mean, they invest a lot of time and money. I mean, now it's HD. Now they have enhancements. They just added a call-in line. There's a lot of different things that are going on. And so they're always upgrading, they're always improving, they're always working on it. I mean, every 2 weeks, like the whole platform changed just like a month ago. YouTube live events, just came about. So it's really important to pay attention to that. A lot of the G+ experts will tell you to focus a lot on G+ and creating an event and things like that. But really, the approach is multifold. It's one thing to be closing the empathy gap, where I'm here hanging out with you live, and I see Mike popping in a lot of questions for me, so I'm going to get to those in just a second. But that's one piece of it. But then also from a marketing standpoint is to really treat it as a marketing tool and the opportunity for a branding tool. So we want to get closer to our audience and those that we're trying to serve, but we also want to make sure that we don't neglect the YouTube marketing side of it. So there's a lot of really cool tricks in there. So I'm going to put on my handy dandy glasses and see what Mike has to say. How does one set up a page like this one? So for this particular page, for the Hangouts for Business page, I am a firm believer in use what you have. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get shiny ball syndrome, and particularly around Hangouts. Everybody's got some new plug-in chat features, some new something. Now if you have nothing, then I suggest getting one of those, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But I just happen to have optimized press. So what I did was I created a watch live page. And then I, put in my text at the top, and then all I had to do was grab the, they give you links in the Hangout on Air. You just embed that, and then you just do a Facebook commenting system so that we're able to have this conversation. So I had that, and I just didn't invest a lot of money in there. I was looking at one program the other day, Webinar Jam. I had a lot of friends that are having a lot of success with that. I haven't dove all the way into it. Easy Webinar plugin's been around for a couple of years. That's another good one. That's a drag and drop. I think the Webinar Jam is as well. There's kind of some reviews out there for both of those. So I think both of those are great. You could use Lead Pages. Lead Pages has a setup for Hangouts. So there's several different options out there. I just say use what you have, or find the one that's going to work best for you and your purpose. All right, so let me keep on going to the next question. Do you have to be watching both this page and the official Hangout page to keep up the comments? No, my strategy is that I don't want to track down my comments from every location. So I never set up a G+ event. Again, going back to I'm not a G+ expert, so I never set up a G+ event. All I do is my whole thing is to drive everyone to this page to watch, so that I have everybody in one location. One of the sayings is a confused mind never buys. So the point being with that is if you're sending them over to a G+ event, and then you're sending them over to a Facebook tab, and then you're sending them over to a website, and then you're sending them over, and they're just going to get so confused that they're going to be frustrated by the time they finally get to you. So, as you noticed with my sequence, I asked for an email, you flip over to a watch live page, I had a video sitting there telling you what you could expect. I asked you to start posting comments because of that 45-second to 1-minute delay, so that I could have some questions in there already instead of being audience dependent on my content. And then I just drive all of my traffic to that one site. I won't neglect the YouTube comments. If someone happens upon me upon YouTube, I'll be, I'll use what in the Hangout toolbox, it's called Comment Tracker. So I'll be looking for comments there as well. Actually, I will not. Mike will be. It's hard to manage all of this by yourself. I was pretty arrogant in the beginning when I used to do it, because now there's so many moving parts. I have Mike behind the scenes. He's cutting and pasting the comments into a chat box so that I can see them. But I do have the other page open as well. So if it was just me by myself running this, then I could open up the screen and look at those comments. And so I'd be here in the Hangout, which you don't ever want to really see yourself on the screen anyway, but I could also be looking at the web page. So only having 2 windows open for that one. Let's see. If we're just starting out as a producer, how much should we charge for that service? You know, this is the great debate. And I'll be honest, I'm always very honest and transparent. When I was on the quote unquote bleeding edge, I was out like with a cup, like a homeless person begging people to pay me. And then I went ahead and started realizing that my value was not the free tool, just like we're having, with my product, yeah, we can talk about how to push buttons, but it's really understanding strategy. So as a producer, though you are pushing buttons, like what Mike did for me today, he's like, move your lights, move your chair a little bit, we need to, like this, we were hating this backdrop. He as a producer was telling me that, he's manning the comments, he's making sure everything's going okay. Okay, your microphone doesn't sound right. Okay, we'll make sure, he makes sure that the dimensions are right in my website, all of those type of things. A producer is so much more than that. I didn't dodge the question. I'll tell you that I went from, in the beginning, I charged $200 an hour. I moved up to $300 an hour. Then I jumped to $600 an hour, and now I'm $1,000 an hour, what my clients pay me. And as entrepreneurs, if you do any type of coaching and consulting, there's just certain mental barriers you have to get through to realize your value to something. And so to be transparent, that was my own progression. It took me a little while to be able to progress to charge what, I'm worth. And now people pay that, but it takes a little bit of time. I think if you're just starting out, I wouldn't jump to 1,000. I don't think, that's a smart move. I have the good fortune of having a lot of marketing strategy behind me when I do that. So, just be cautious of that, and then it's also whatever people will pay. I think we came up with in our Elite Producers Academy, we thought that 3 was fair. Every producer is going to have a different contribution. So like in my Elite Producers Academy, each person in there, like Mike's, a tech god, so he does a lot, he understands the tech. He likes all of the, the cameras and the microphones and the XSplits and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So that's going to be a higher value. Someone that can build out a website and design a sales page and do all that, that person will have higher value. So it depends on what you're offering. So there's no cold, hard, fast rule. I will disclose that I thought being a Hangout producer is kind of one of those terms I just pulled out of the air, but it's actually a rapidly growing offering, so much so that we're actually working on, a friend of mine and I are working on a trade association that will kind of start to set the tone of, what would be a good producer, what could you expect, and how much should you expect to pay for those producers. So I hope that answers your question. I wasn't dodging it. I'm just trying to be as clear as I possibly can. Hi, Brandee. Do you have a strategy on how to get past the gatekeepers using Google Hangouts to get through to a local business owner so that I can sell any of my marketing services? Many thanks. And then thank you, Mike. And then, let's see. Do you have a strategy on how to get past the gatekeepers using Google Hangouts to get through to a local business owner? Ron, can you clarify just a little bit further what you mean by gatekeepers and the local business owners, so that I understand what the question is, because I'm trying to decipher it. But we have an on-call reputation. Okay, we have an on-the-call reputation management, emotional intelligence coach. Okay, so yes, I'm going to go ahead and keep on moving until Mike hits me up with some more questions. Want to thank you all again. That was awesome. I love coming right into questions. Usually you have to go into content for a while before you start getting some questions. So basically what we're going to talk about today is, what are Hangouts, why Hangouts, and why now? We just covered that. 8 ways to profit from Hangouts and what you need to get started. So the slides are kind of messing up today, so we're just going to go ahead and move right back into just talking about it. Let's turn that back on. Yes, and again, things can go wrong. So, there's several ways that you can profit. And again, I'm going to put that out there that if you guys will start talking about what kind of offerings you want, why you want to jump into Hangouts. So one of the most obvious ones would be for web shows. So if you wanted to do a web show and build authority with your audience, either by interviewing people, or I tell realtors to do, like 15-minute coffee chats every week, or maybe you have some kind of big, offering coming up soon, so you want to really start getting to know the people, and again, remember that it's video marketing on nitrous. Then you also have a chance to engage with your people live. So, doing a web show is a great, way to do that. A lot of people, that's why podcasting is so, big right now, is because it's really an opportunity to get in front of your people every week, and Hangouts is a great way to do that. Another great way to profit from Hangouts, whether you do it as a producer or you are just an entrepreneur trying to gain some authority, would be via summits. We've heard of the teleseminars. You see where there's always these panels of experts, over the span of time, 35 experts get together and they share their offerings. Summits are a fantastic way to do this. And Hangouts are brilliant for doing summits because, again, you get to do a lot of branding. We did a summit with Michelle Holmes, it was the Rockstar Summit. So everybody's like, the lower third branding, everybody had the exact same branding, but they still had their website at the base. And so that is a great way. It's a lot of work. So if you've never done a summit, I don't say jump in and do it on a Hangout. But if that's one of your business models, that is going to be a great way to do it. Another way would be for local marketing. When Ron's question comes back up for clarity, we'll get to that. Local marketing is going to go gangbusters. I think a lot of times in the internet marketing space, we market to our peers so much. But if you end up being a Hangout producer, you could do a lot of local marketing services. Because of the video marketing on Nitrous, you are able to go and show people that they're going to outrank. We have another one of our elite producers that ranked a gym in the Boston area, which was a mom and pop gym, and they ended up ranking from just doing a couple of Hangouts. And all you have to do with that, and this kind of goes to Ron's thing, is when you're talking to a local business, you will, you could have just go in and shoot a couple of Hangouts at the local business. And then you can, show them that you can rank that YouTube video based on keywords and calls to action and that kind of stuff. Same strategy. We want to keep the Hangouts on our website, but you could also be, showing that you could offer this as a service locally. I think a great idea, and I've talked to several of the producers in Producers Academy about this, is, go around to local businesses like a wine shop or a spa, particularly if you live in some smaller towns or like some niche neighborhoods, you just take your laptop, get one of those little hotspots of Verizon or a AT&T little hotspot. That's enough bandwidth to do it. And then you just go in and do like a little local wine and cheese, or the special of the week, or, this is where to get the spa service, or this is where to get your oil change this week. There's so many different ways that you can do that. And then another way, obviously, is as a producer. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning of this presentation, but it is becoming, I'm more and more shocked because I felt like I was the person that just made the term up, and I wasn't sure where it was going to go, but that's what everybody was calling me, was they were calling me a producer. And so I thought, oh my gosh, but it's growing quickly. The battle, I think, mostly is when you decide to be a producer, and I cover this in my course, but and we cover this in Elite Academy as well, is that when you're trying, people, though we are all onto it, and all the biggest internet marketers are usually the first people to jump on a fast-moving train, and like I said, 6 months ago, everybody's like, no way, no way, no way, and now the biggest in the industry, I watched a bunch of them last week with some pretty big people in the industry. They're the first to take action and innovate as quickly as possible. But it isn't trickled down to the rest of, like if you go down to the local coffee shop and you talk about Hangouts, the average person doesn't even A, know what a Hangout is, B, they probably don't even know what video marketing is. So before you start trying to sell your services as a producer, it's really, you want to come from a place of what's the benefit to the person. Like why should the local business get on Hangouts? If you're offering your services, if you're a VA or, you just want to supplement your income in some way, instead of coming at them saying, oh, you should be doing Hangouts and you should pay me to do them, that's really not the approach that you want to take. You want to take more of a lean back marketing approach, and that's where you're sharing knowledge about the benefits of Hangouts, why people should be doing Hangouts, and then, eventually you move into offering your services as that. But, most people, I remember the beginning, and I had to go through this myself, is, it's a free tool. So most people are like, oh, I can watch plenty of videos and know how to do it free. But here's the thing. Yes, there's plenty of free videos out there, and there's plenty of experts out there that are more than happy to charge you and show you how to push some buttons and how to use the app. But that is only 10% of what Hangouts are really all about. It is really about the strategy. It's really about the benefit that you bring to the free tool. And that's what my mentor, when I went through my own blocks in raising my prices, my mentor had said that. Stop trying to sell a free tool, sell your benefit to the free tool. So I suggest that to all of you as well. If you're thinking about doing this as a producer or selling it to local, more your benefit to the free tool than the actual free tool itself. So that's really important. And let's see if What do we got? Yep. Oh, Mike's burning up my thing again. Okay, let's see. Let's see, Nina, that was a great answer. Thanks, Brandee Sweesy. Thanks, Nina. Shane, hi, Brandee. Can you take the MP3 from your Google Hangout audio and use it for a podcast as well? Yeah, Shane, great question. I have been, just like I was on the bleeding edge with Hangouts, I'm on the bleeding edge with thinking that podcasters need to be using Hangouts, is that you should be able to, not should, you can. I have said this time and time and time again. I'm at like a little local commerce space, so somebody's waving to me. I've said this time and time again, is that you take the content, so like almost like a Howard Stern, right? So have you and the person that you're interviewing both on Hangout camera, then you can use ScreenFlow or Camtasia and just rip the audio from that, and then use that as a podcast. You might, I think that's even better because people can see the reactions. Some of us are visual learners. Some of us just like to hear. I've had a little bit of pushback from podcasters saying that podcasting is totally different. It's not really a repurposing of content. If people know, hey, I could watch you do this podcast interview, I could also pop it in my car on the drive to work and hear it, or I could watch you on a Hangout. Same thing. I also suggest getting them transcribed so that you have, this one effort, put across all channels. So I absolutely, that's probably my next, actually I'm adding that to the course in the next couple of days. I'm talking to a couple podcasters about the easiest way to do that. But the quick way that I've learned to do it is just use ScreenFlow and just record the audio from the Hangout. Because when you ScreenFlow record a Hangout, there's just ugly, nasty delays, and it just doesn't translate well. So just rip the audio, and that would be the way that I would do that. And let's see. Colleen, if you're running a Hangout to promote a product for sale, launch a product, what is the best way towards the end to guide people towards your sales page? Can it be an active link? In all transparency, Colleen, I'm going to be doing that today at the end of this broadcast. So there's different schools of thought. You could always, send someone to a sales page where they can see what's going to happen. I chose for today, since it's been 6 months since I've done one, we just probably at the 45-minute mark, there's going to be an Order Now button, because usually that's when we'll start talking about, do you want to be in Producers Academy? I prefer being transparent. And then this is another thing that I think too, and so to even be more transparent with you, Colleen, is a lot of people, like if you know the webinar sequence, it's, hi, talk about yourself, give social proof, go into the content, and here's the pitch. I think that Hangouts are much more about this. Let's interact. Let me give you as much value as possible. Let me answer your questions. And should you decide that you want to go further into that, then you would do an offering. So same thing if you're doing any type of product launch, to be much more casual, not so salesy. You really want to be giving value. At least I do, and I think that that's the grand scale. And I think on webinars that's really sincerity of people as well. But instead of trying to use Hangouts as a webinar replacement, to approach it in a different way. So here I am face to face with you, answering your questions live. If you're interested, there'll be a link. If you're not, hey, hopefully you got some good value out of it and you go and rock some Hangouts. So I think it's just a little bit of a different approach. Instead of using a slide deck, if you'll notice, I keep popping up little custom overlays as opposed to doing a slide presentation. In the beginning, when I first started doing Hangouts, I did the typical webinar replacement. I was like, yay, it's free, let's, and I made slides, and the slides bug up, or the screen share doesn't work, and the keynote wouldn't go right. I mean, I figured out a workaround for that, but I really advise all of my clients to not be so slide dependent and stop treating it as a webinar replacement and treating it more as an opportunity to hang out with your people, engage with them, have a good time, answer questions, give value. And if the value is good, then people, may buy your product or they may not. But it's a totally different approach than that typical style. So that was a very long answer to your question, but you could have the link go to like below this video. There could be, at the beginning, there was an Order Now link there before, but I decided not to do that because then people might not be so interested or think that I was going to actually actively engage and give the best value. So it should actively show up at some point around the 45-minute mark. It may or may not, because I'm in tech, not the best at the tech, but ideally that's what's supposed to happen. So, or a link could be there the whole time that could go out to your sales page where it could show people what they're getting and then have an active link there. I think that may be my approach going forward, but it was more pull the trigger, get out there. It's been 6 months. You need to talk to people. So hope that answers your question. Let's see. Um, Cynthia wants to be a Hangout producer. Yes, please be a Hangout producer. I think it's awesome. Mike could attest to that too. I got Mike kind of last minute, so I don't know if he wants to come on and say anything, but he may. Patricia, I thought it was best to be wired. How does that work with a hotspot? Yeah, me too. You know, I'll tell you, Patricia, every time somebody tells me something went wrong with the Hangout, I'm like, were you hardwired? Were you hardwired? Were you hardwired? Yeah, it is best to be hardwired. However, one of my inside people at Google told me that a hotspot was sufficient. I went and got a hotspot, or was going to get a hotspot, and I was not 100% convinced. So when I truly test it, I will let you know. My inside at Google says it works great because he does a lot of like big live shows with live events, and he just uses the hotspot. The hotspot will most likely, because it's dedicated to you, will be better than, say, a public Wi-Fi or like a hotel Wi-Fi, or any like a Starbucks Wi-Fi where everybody's sucking off of it. I was talking to another friend of mine that has a Verizon hotspot, and he's run hundreds of webinars from it, and he said it works great. Hangouts are a massive bandwidth. For myself, today they were working on the internet and my building, so I came to a local co-merged, co-creative space to use that as well. So, there's other alternatives. If I do end up finding a hotspot that I think rocks, I'll let you know. I think it's sufficient. Everybody's internet is different. I do a lot of speed tests on everybody's internet, and they just vary a lot. So, I think it could be good. I also think that a lot of people want their videos to look so perfect, myself included. I get very uptight about that, with branding and lighting and everything else. But I think that I have to back off from being such a control freak. I'm not running an Emmy Award-winning show, so it's okay if there's a little bit of audio-video delay. It's okay if it's not perfect. I mean, I think that's part of closing that empathy gap. So I hope that helps. Let's see, Ron, rather than telephoning a business directly and the gatekeeper stops you in tracks, I thought it might be a good idea to use Hangouts as maybe a strategy. Yeah, Ron, I think that's a great idea. That's what I was kind of talking about, and even going to the last question. I think that if I was a local marketer, I would start and I actually told Mike to do this, I would start my own local little show with that hotspot that like we're talking about. And I would go into local businesses and say, hey, do you mind if I do a little 10-minute video about you? What do you got going on this week? And everybody loves to be on camera, whether it's web or not. Everybody loves to be on camera. So you could like go around and do, 3 or 4 businesses, and it's like Thirsty Thursday, and these are the specials that are going around town, or, this is, the cool thing that's going, and you show a couple of different little businesses that you've ranked them on YouTube. Then you go back, so you're not even messing with the gatekeeper. Maybe you don't even talk to the owner. You're just going in there and saying, hey, I have this little local show. It's all about, local businesses, single-owned businesses, non-corporate businesses, however you want to phrase it. Do you mind if I interview you for just a couple minutes? Can you tell me a little bit about your story? What do you guys do here? How long have you been in business? What's your specialty? What's your why? What makes it exciting, and why are you doing this? And then that way you can, show them examples of that, and then you can make sure that you maximize that. So that's a great way to do it, I think. You coming in, James? Let's see. Okay. Are you on the 22 Social app or just a lead page? Hi, Cynthia. I am on, so I wonder where you're watching. That would be my question, Cynthia. Where are you watching from? No, it is not on an app. It is actually running on hangoutsforbusiness.com /watchlive-2. That is where I'm doing it. So I drive all of the traffic to my website so that I can look at it from there. So it makes it just a little bit easier for me to manage. If you don't have a website, you can use the app. The app is fine. But I prefer to use it on my website. We have a lot of people in Producers Academy that use the app and have a lot of success, so it depends on your resources. I think both are great. If you use it on the app, there's a commenting system there. You can just flip it out. It's a little bit simpler if you don't know that much about websites. Lead pages just the same. Optimized Press, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So there's a lot of different options. It's just basically a YouTube video being embedded on your website. Let's see. Okay, so I answered Ron. Shane, okay, good. Ron, Brandee, are you recording this Hangout for a replay so I can catch some of your nuggets? You take a picture. Yeah, actually, this will go out if you're Ron. Who's that? Ron? Yeah, Ron. If you are on my list, then you'll get a copy of the replay. actually, once this ends, it'll sit on this page until I do the next one, and then I'll just trade out that one. So it'll be sitting there. So if you want to come back and watch it, that's the other reason why I like Hangouts as opposed to the GoToWebinar approach, is because when you do, you always get that there might be a replay, or it takes forever. Like in a GoToWebinar, you have to download it and it has to be converted, and then you have to upload it, and then something goes wrong, and then you have to put it someplace, and then you have to send it out. No, once I push broadcast, end broadcast, this is a YouTube video, it sits on my website, it's good to go, and that's the end of that. So that's why I prefer Hangouts, because I am too lazy to go through all that trouble, and technology doesn't always like me, so I prefer to just do it that way. All right, so I think that's most of the questions for now. James, do you want to come on and say hi? James is here at the co-working space, and he was like, what are you doing over here? You can pause. Let's see if I can move you in. I can move over. There you go. Can you get in there? Yeah, you got it. There you go. James, can you say hi, everybody?
Hi, everybody.
You don't see everybody. This is Mike down here, who's our Hangout producer.
Okay.
And then James knows nothing about Hangouts either, and he's like, what are you doing in there? So I said, hey, if you want to come in and pop some questions in. And then Mike says, hi, James. So this is our little internal chat over there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So this is our way of, he's doing, so I'm going to tell you guys and James as well. I think it's good. I asked, when James said, I was like, oh, yeah, just pop in. It's a hangout. It's good to have people just, pop in for the casualness of it, so it doesn't seem as tense, and, just have a good time. And then it's also streaming on my website. Then people are asking questions here, and so what he's doing is he's cutting and pasting the questions into the chat box so that I don't have to keep on managing all that. So that's what's good for being a Hangout producer. And so we're waiting on more questions. So another way to do presentations, I know a lot of people really like to get into the the slide presentation. So I'll give you guys a couple of little ideas. So I'm doing this, I don't have to watch my thing. So a couple of different ways that you can do presentations. One, the reason why I don't like to do the slide deck stuff is if you do it in PowerPoint, you have to load it into the Google Drive, and then in the Google Drive you lose a lot of your formatting. So if you use Keynote, you can take your keynotes and convert them into QuickTimes. And the QuickTimes, a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute, what? Like, I don't know that. Is that a movie? It's like, no, you can still manually do that. Now, as we know at the beginning of this, I said, let's not try to make this be a GoToWebinar replacement, but I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys an example. So you can go into Screen Share. When you go into Screen Share, it'll give you, anything that you have open on your desktop. So here's my little slide presentation. So if I was going to do slides, I could do this and I don't have to be on camera. And so this is, Elon Musk. Elon Musk and Richard Branson were one of my favorite Hangouts of last year, which Elon was having a sandwich, Richard Branson was laughing. It was fantastic. So you go into Screen Share and you just make sure that you have everything closed on your desktop, and then you can just move through your slides. What was happening last week was the Screen Share wasn't working and it got really clunky. Now, so this is why I say, like, let's not make this a replacement for, GoToWebinar. You actually want to, be face-to-face with your people, but there is the opportunity to do that as well. And so I'm just kind of moving through these. We've covered most of this in this event, but, just really why you need to be on Hangouts, be ahead of your brand. So this is one of my slide presentations. So here's what you need to get started. You just need a G+ account, and you just have to have a linked YouTube channel. If you're not going to go over there and master G+, the one thing that I do suggest is you at least put a profile picture in there, because when your camera's not working, the picture is going to flash up on the screen. So sometimes there's, it freezes, or, the internet kind of slows down. So make sure there's at least a picture in there. Also make sure that your YouTube channel is verified, because if not, it cannot allow for uploads over 15 minutes. The latest, greatest, bestest thing that I have, that I'm in love with right now is YouTube live events. They just lifted the last final phase of that, so everyone is able to have YouTube live events. And the reason that this makes this so magical is if you start your Hangout from a YouTube live event, you can keyword tag that, and you can also put in your descriptions any calls to action that you may have, all of that, and then it's public. So that's where we get into the marketing on nitrous. And then, of course, Patricia had asked us too. Yes, it's best to be hardwired. Use a headset. I just use my iPhone headset and hide it behind my 80s hair. It's like I hide it behind my 80s hair. This is where the 80s hair and Aquanet really come in handy. It's good to have good lighting. Even here in this weird space, I have two little soft boxes, and then use Google Chrome. Google just tends to play better with Google. And then no crazy equipment necessary. I happen to have a blue snowball. But all you really need is a webcam and a headset. If you want to go a little bit, further up, you can get the Logitech C920 for $70 on Amazon. And then I just happen to have the blue snowball from video recordings before, but you don't really need that. It doesn't, I mean, it improves the audio a little bit, but not that substantially. So whatever you have there. There are different Hangouts. Google likes to move this around every 2 weeks, so I don't even think this is accurate at this point because this was only 2 weeks ago. But right now, there is a Hangouts page where you can start Hangouts from, so you can do Hangouts on air, private Hangouts, that kind of stuff. But the only ones that stream live to YouTube are the ones that say on air, made for public. And then it'll tell you, this is one of the biggest things that I've really noticed that a lot of people have trouble with, is everybody has so many YouTube channels and so many G plus pages, so untangling all of that is just a nightmare. So if you don't have any of those, consider yourself lucky. I am lucky that everything fell under Brandee Sweesy, so I didn't have to go and untangle a bunch of stuff. But before you go on air, it will tell you what channel it's streaming to, and that's always a great way to be like, well, I wonder which one is connected to this. To use external cameras, you can just go into settings, that little gearbox up there. You can pick the camera, you can pick the microphone. Up at the top is, the invite people. I say never invite people, that way it never works, but that's another story. Then you can mute your microphone, you can hide your camera, you can adjust your bandwidth or hang up. And then on the left-hand side of the screen is, a chat, a screen share. There's little ... add apps. Here's the thing, is less is more in a Hangout because Hangouts are a massive bandwidth issue. So the less you do in a Hangout, I know all of those little things all seem like a lot of fun, but I use 3 things. I use the internal chat, which is what Mike and I are talking about behind the scenes, which is why you can't hear Mike. I use the Hangout toolbox. That was, at the beginning of the show where I was just showing you custom overlays. And then I use the cameraman app. Those are the only 3 apps I use. Well, and of course, screen share, which I'm using now. This is not my preferred way of doing a Hangout. I don't think this is the best way, but I just wanted to show you what a screen share could look like. So there's the internal chat. That's what Mike and I are chatting over behind the scenes. Then you can just, once you open screen share, it'll, pick every single thing that's on your desktop that's open. So I have everything closed down except for what you want to use. If you are in PowerPoint, you'll need to import your your slides into Google Drive, and then make sure that you select Present in New Window, and that'll stop a lot of the train wrecks that you've seen with people lately. And then the Hangout toolbox, this is where you get, it looks like a little lunchbox with a wrench in it. This is where you can put your name, your website, and then you can just turn it on from there. You can change the color, or you can do custom overlays. This is the links that I was talking about embedding in your website. It's usually at the bottom right-hand side of your Hangout, and you can just use those links to embed wherever you'd like people to watch. And I think I'm going to turn off the screen share now and see if there's any questions. Oh, yeah, Mike's been burning it up with 9 over there, so let's turn off the screen share.
I have a question, too, when you have
Yes, yeah, please, go ahead. You're my in-person guest, so yeah.
I'm first in line, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm right
exactly.
here.
Yeah.
How are people leveraging the recordings of the Google Hangouts through a Google search perspective? Are people getting them ranked on Google terms or search results, or is it mostly just through the Google Plus channel, or are they using them on other platforms?
Well, this is because this is like, for this one, for this particular Hangout, what I did was I went in here and keyword tagged this all already. So I mean, we could. So
it's just like you're keywording, like you're trying to rank a YouTube video. You're using the similar style with the headline and the description, the headline several times in the description, some of the strategies.
So usually you'll end up it could take about. I've seen it take about 10 hours, but sometimes I can get right up on #1.
Right.
Like for today's, I didn't do. I did some like how to use Hangouts for business. I did a couple of things like that. But usually a lot of people can get right up in number one
Now,
pretty quick.
are you getting on number one, but because it's your account? But if you went incognito and saw it from someone else's screen, is it ranking on other people's that aren't your friends?
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple people test it because that's what we were talking about, like making sure
Yeah,
that you log out, you be on a different computer, you're not
right.
logged into any of your accounts.
Yeah,
So
because like if I do a lot with Google, I just see me everywhere, and then I'm like, but if I pull up Google Chrome incognito, which is a blank, I'm not there,
yeah,
you know, I'm barely there, as not as often.
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, well, Hangouts rank higher than YouTube videos. I mean, that's one thing that everyone will agree
mm,
upon.
okay,
So, yeah,
all
I
right,
mean, let's see.
that's my question.
There you go. Richard, I'm
Now I'm
viewing
gonna
this.
post my picture of you.
Okay, perfect on
Yeah,
Facebook, yeah.
yes.
Richard, I'm viewing this on your website, Brandee, and see the questions being asked by others via Facebook. I then noticed the link to YouTube, so I click to view on YouTube, but don't see the questions there. So is it best to produce a show like this on your website for engaging questions or YouTube? You know, great question, Richard. This is kind of I'm a firm believer in you drive everything to your website, right? Because you want the Alexa rankings. You want to have the engagement on your website. The Google gods tend to like that. Now, the Google gods love when people comment on your YouTube videos. So I don't like to neglect those comments. But for me personally, everything is being driven to my website at all times. And then that Facebook commenting system below is something that everyone's familiar with. When you go to a YouTube live Hangout event, it's very hard to figure out where to comment if you're not familiar. So I'm always trying to make it as easy as possible for my end user to interact with me. So that's why I've chosen this strategy and stuck to it, is because really, again, everybody knows, you know, well, I mean, it's HGTV now, but, you know, www. Right, everyone still knows that. And so I want the average person to be able to click a link, come and join me, be able to post a question, and know that I'm going to respond. Like I've watched a couple of Hangouts where I've gone over the YouTube videos or I've gone over the G Plus things, and it's hard to figure out where they're commenting from. Now, there is an app called the Hangout Toolbox, which has a comment tracker, which will allow you to pull in the comments from YouTube. So I tell myself and all of my clients, don't neglect those people. Even if you know, are trying to do this by yourself, or it's you and your producer, you know, luckily I have Mike, he's checking every single spot, because you could be manning Twitter at this point, Facebook. You know, this was a kind of a last minute decision to do this today. But we would be manning all of those channels so that we don't neglect anyone that happens upon us, but all of our promotional efforts are to drive to the website so that we have better control over that. Let's see. Jennifer Page, hi Brandee, do you use natural lighting? No, never. So right now I'm using soft boxes. I have two big massive soft boxes. My vanity dictates that. So I try to be as far away from the camera now with HD, and then I have the soft boxes, so maybe it'll wash out some of my wrinkles. You know, it didn't look too bad when we were testing it out before without it. So I do, in the past, have used natural light, and I do like natural light if it's coming in the right way. I do actually prefer that, but then you got to think about the time of day. If the sun's going down, you know, that's a lot to be thinking about. Ron asked, should you always wear an earpiece? I always do, Ron. It's very hard to figure out where the feedback's coming from, particularly when you have guests. So like I said, I take my big 80s hair and I hide my iPhone headset and I try to cover it up with my hair. I probably get a Bluetooth, you know, one day when I want to up my game just a little bit. Sheila, how do you connect another person remotely to talk in a Hangout and invite people to watch? Can you keep inviting more people to watch? Sheila, you can have yourself plus 9 in a Hangout. That would be within. So like right now, Mike and I are in a Hangout together. And then we have, well, and then obviously James is sitting here. And then we have unlimited viewers. So it could be unlimited viewership, but within the Hangout. And I saw this posted on some forum someplace. You can rotate those guests out. So if you have 9 guests and you want, we did one with David Simon Garland, you know, where we had Melanie Duncan come in from, you know, 15 to 30. Then she left, and then James Wenmore came in from, you know, 30 to 45, and then they left, you know, right? So we were rotating them out that way, but David always stayed the same. And that was really good. That was about a 2-hour one, and that went really well. Linda Lynn, is there a way to share a short video in a Hangout? You know, Linda Lynn, this has been the questions of questions of questions. My immediate answer is no, because Hangouts are much more likely to be pinged for copyright infringements. They have actually said that publicly, that they watch Hangouts more than they do YouTube videos. So even if it is your video on your desktop, if there's video playing, the other caveat to that is the bandwidth is bad enough sometimes with the audio to video. Sometimes it doesn't always look perfect, that when you try to play a video, it's just too chunky and choppy. However, somebody wrote me yesterday and said that they have a workaround. I just haven't tested it, but when I do, I know you're in our group, Lindalyn, so I will tell you in the group if we have a private Facebook group. So if I figure it out in the next couple of days, I'll post in our private Facebook page, or actually add it to one of the modules. So, Jesse, you mentioned a new call-in feature. Could you describe how that works? Yeah, Jesse, I loaded it and it hasn't worked for me yet. It's called Uber Conference. It says you get a free phone number that participants can call in to access your Hangouts from their phone. That's been one of the highly requested features. I'm sure they're going to do it. The reason why they're not allowing it to happen for on-air, you can do it in private Hangouts, but the reason why they're not allowing it for on-air is because when you join a Hangout on air, it will prompt you about all of the copyright issues. And then you agree, and then you come into the Hangout. Now, me as the Hangout facilitator, if Mike was to do something that was copyright infringement, then I would be shut down. So I'm responsible for him. But when he came into this Hangout, he agreed to those terms. So then for the call-in, they haven't found a workaround for them to agree to those terms. There's a lot of buzz right now within, with the inner circles over there, so I'm sure they're going to figure out a workaround, but they really want you to agree to the terms and the copyright issues. Any other favorite Hangouts, i.e. Richard Branson, that you've seen that you would recommend for learning what works? Yeah, I mean, I think by far that was my favorite. I am now hypercritical, so I tend to watch for train wrecks. At the beginning, I like just to watch for fun and great examples, but now I tend to watch more for the train wreck portion of the program. So I usually will pop into some and just to look around and see, I teach from my mistakes, and I also like to learn from others' mistakes. So now I'm more looking for, oh, yeah, you never want to do that. Or, yeah, that looks good. Okay, maybe I'll try that. It's more of that kind of thing. Go ahead.
I got one more quick
question.
Yeah,
please.
Then I got a phone call.
Okay.
I got to jump on.
I know, sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
What would be the best, maybe 2 or 3 brick and mortar businesses that could leverage Google Hangouts? I know that coaching and those kind of entrepreneurial internet people can leverage this well. But what type of brick and mortars do you think would use this the best?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but it's a great question, because I think a lot of people do think, oh, well, it's the internet, so it's like an internet marketing thing, right? But really, I think the power is going to be for local marketers. And so one of the examples that I gave earlier to Ron, I think it was if you had like a little hotspot and a little webcam, and so you can't get past the gatekeepers or the people that have been screwed so many times by the SEO salesman or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you go into a local business like, hey, can I just interview you for like 10 minutes? And then you rank that video, and then you come back and you show them. So I thought like a Thirsty Thursday, especially James gets out and about a lot. I stalk him on Facebook, so if he likes to play like I like to play.
I like my happy hours.
Yeah, so for those of you who know me, know that I like to get my happy hour on too. But I would go to like all the local restaurants in the gas lamp, call it Thirsty Thursday, and it'd be like the James Hickey Show, Thursday, and you start showing them.
Streaming it live.
Yeah.
And then you go back to them and go, listen, I just Googled this. There you are.
Yeah.
And you should hire me to do your marketing.
Yeah. And then it's the humanization of the brand too. So you go into that like local restaurant and you meet the bartenders or their drink of the week, or you have them make a craft cocktail. We were talking to a bartender from right down the street the other day. We're in San Diego, by the way. Yeah. He's like so into his craft cocktails at the Palomar Hotel. Yeah. And he was just, he makes a certain martini a certain way. Like if
salt box.
Yeah. So if he made a martini on a little hangout, he would become like James Wedmore. That was his claim to fame. He taught people how to bartend. But spas, I thought spas would be a great one. Like wine and cheese shops, any kind of gourmet shop, any type of more mom and pop business, not your corporate-y type business. Okay. So you go in there and people, because we've heard this 1,000 times. People buy from who they know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. So the more that you can close, that's what I think Hangouts really are.
So you think like a realtor or mortgage broker could do a first-time home buyers Google Hangout to answer questions for anybody interested in first-time home buying. Have you seen anybody do that or use that?
Do you know Ryan Stewman? He's the hardcore closer. Mm-hmm. He went from 0 to
like
2,000. Yeah, he went from 0 to 2,000 subscribers in 30 days. He was one of my clients like back in July. Talk about an instant implementer, and now he's doing $1 million masterminds with like the Bravo billionaire listing guys. But this is what I suggest a lot of a lot of realtor people, realtors, anybody that has any kind of, you can't really talk about interest. You have a lot of you can't get into too much legal terminology. But if I was a realtor, I would be doing like a weekly coffee chat.
Yeah.
And just saying, this is what's going on. So, my area is San Diego, say Little Italy. This is what's happening in the industry right now. Oh, did you hear about this? Oh, and by the way, I have this listing over here that would be fantastic in this great little area, And so I think, again, talk about being ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's very creative for realtors.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to get them to do that. I spoke to a bunch of realtors, about 14 of them the other day, and it was all social media based. I didn't bring anything like this up, but it might be good to throw in.
Yeah. I mean, because again, all you need is a laptop. I go a little bit more out because, you know what I mean? They don't need any of this. They could just do a little, open up their laptop, hey, this is James Hickey this week from, Little Italy real estate office. Hey, this is what's going on in the industry right now. Did you hear? 15 minutes, boom, done, and broadcast.
Right. But you're one last question, then I got to run.
Okay. Because
I have 3 o'clock off. But I'm not going to keep you going. But so it's great the realtor does that. But how are they? You've got a lot of listeners here. How are they getting all these people to hear about this hangout? Does the realtor have to leverage their lists through an email or through a Facebook post or through a Google Plus post or an email? How are they getting people to attend it, or are they waiting for the recording and getting it to rank?
It's threefold, I think. So wherever your audience is where you're going to promote it, right? So to your list, to your whatever social media. Again, I'm not a G+ expert. Do I think you should learn it? Absolutely. Go knock yourself out. But if people happen upon it on G+, bonus. If they happen upon it on YouTube, bonus. So before I push start broadcast, if I was a realtor, I would do my title would be San Diego Realtor, Little Italy, James Hickey. And then that would be the title of every coffee chat, and then the very end of it would be number 15. Right. So that because we want our hot keywords in the front end of it, right? Then I would put in a description where my website is, call to action, have my keywords. So okay, I got the YouTube covered. All right, so where am I promoting? Okay, so I'm going to drive traffic to it's embedded on my website. So wherever they can embed it is where you want it. So that's where you're going to be driving all your traffic, ideally to your list, so that you can stay in contact with your list. But you want to be driving all the traffic to your website so that they're engaging on your website. Then, for our Facebook commenting system that's below my website right now is
that 22 Social?
No, this is this is in Optimized Press.
Okay.
And so then I have all of these comments here, and then it just they stack, right? So then you get the compounded social proof on top of that. So I just embed it on my website. It takes 2 seconds. You grab this little link from, you just grab a link from the bottom right of the Hangout, everybody, and then you just grab the little thing, and then you just embed it, boom, and then you never have to go back and adjust anything.
Right.
Because it's already there.
I like that.
And so you're doing threefold. You're driving traffic to my website. I'm asking for an email. I'm driving people to the Watch Live page. I had all of that timed in my autoresponder before I ever went live, so that's one less thing to worry about before I go live. Then I did a Facebook post. A couple other people did a Facebook post. Boom, we're off and running.
That's where your audience is coming from.
Right, and then I'll go back through and make sure, I think, Mike's doing it for me now, but I'll go back through and make sure that all of the comments are acknowledged, that I interact with people. Then once we push end broadcast, I get to pack up my stuff and go to happy hour. But then it's just sitting on my website. So now the replay can all be there. So somebody that was on earlier that had to leave because they were out of time, but they wanted to come back and watch, they could just come back to this page that they bookmarked.
And the replay be sitting there.
Just be sitting there waiting for them.
All right,
okay,
got it
right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody. See ya. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming and asking some great questions. Let's see. Thank you. You can also see the other person if you want to go back. Okay, so Sheila says, thank you. You can also see the other person if you want to go back and forth. I'm having trouble understanding the question, Sheila, so if you don't mind, because James got into a bunch of questions, so it got me a little bit off track with what we were rolling on there. But if you want to clarify that just a little bit further, and we're coming up to a little bit of the top of the hour. I'm gonna go ahead and let Mike look and see if there's any more questions. We can go back to the slide presentation just to show you that it can be done because it was broken last week. Let's see. So I did this slide presentation. You can see it up here, February 12th presentation. I did this in Keynote, and then I converted it to QuickTime, and then I'm controlling it with the arrows on my keyboard. So we talked about this a lot. I'm big on strategy, 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 strategy. All of my elite producers will tell you that that's what I think. Um, Also, it was so funny is, knowing what I know about producing and producing for other people, I forgot how hard it is to do this yourself. So I do suggest, a couple of different things. But I would hit mic up. I know Mike's commenting in the boxes below. So, hit somebody like mic up. You don't want to do this by yourself. It is a lot to manage. I was, just I was fearless in the beginning with Hangouts, and so I didn't mind having 50 moving parts, and I had no shame in my game. Now I'm like, why would you want to do this? I'd rather just look at the internal chat and, Mike let me know what I need to be doing. Oh, this is just more social. I think this is just kind of social proofy kind of stuff. Yeah, this is all the social proof stuff. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to see if there's any more questions that you guys have for me. And while we're waiting for those to come in, because we got that 45-second to 1 minute delay. Okay, we got one more question coming in, but I'll go ahead and start popping up some stuff. So in full transparency, of course, I am here to talk about Hangouts for Business Producers Academy. And as you can see, these are the kind of numbers, from being a producer I was bringing in. I'm not really doing it too much more anymore. The big thing that we're doing now is we did a soft launch of Hangouts for Business Producers Academy back in September to a grade. We have about 100 people. That has been great because it's really in the last 6 months so much has not only changed with the tool, but really about the strategy, the psychology, all of the different things. So, I've been tweaking the course for quite a while, really trying to expand upon it. Initially, the first course was really all about how to be a producer, but what I realized was I'd say about 75% of the people wanted to have their own show. They wanted to use it in their own business. They really didn't, they just wanted to do their own thing. Some people wanted to make it a full-time career as a producer, which I think is going to go gangbusters. But, so what I did with Producers Academy is I really expanded it out. So there's a bunch of different modules in there. Right now I'm at about 10. I'm probably going to add another 5 tonight. I have a couple people coming in from different websites, like Webinar Jam, Easy Webinar Plugin. I might even get Optimized Press in there to really talk about their, their how to use their platforms to the best. I mean, I have access to all of those, and so I look at all of those. So it's really good to get into that. I talk a lot about how to sell on a Hangout, and we talked a little bit about it today, but I get a little bit more deep dive into the psychology of it, the marketing of it, kind of what James was asking me, like where would your traffic push be coming from? I'm going to expand it out. There's going to be a module on podcasting that'll probably go up to maybe tomorrow. So we're going to be talking about podcasting, and then there's going to be a bunch of modules added specific to each industry. So one for real estate, one for, your mom and pop organizations, one just about, there's one already about just being a Hangout producer. One of the biggest things that gave me the quote-unquote overnight success really was I make it as simple as possible. I'm lucky if I can operate my phone, much less all of these different things. So I'm really known for making everything as easy as possible. A lot of the experts will say, oh, just circle them up and invite a guest. Another one will say, oh, you can just schedule an HOA. Oh, create an event. Oh, send them here. I watched a train wreck of a Hangout this past week. This guy he's so famous, you'll know who he is, but I'm not going to call him out. He is fantastic on camera, notorious for 4-hour live streams. I own his course. He's just a fantastic guy. But I'm guessing that he went to one of the quote-unquote experts. He ended up with a Hangout and events. He had 4 of the biggest people in our industry that I'm aware of mail for him, drive the traffic to this Hangout, okay? And there was 5,000 people that said yes, they were going to go to this G+ event. Then the whole thing disappeared. Then he was scrambling over on Facebook telling everybody to go watch it to YouTube. Then he created a new event, and 500 people ended up joining that event. And then he sent out an email saying, oh, oops, wrong link, which then took you to a broken link. And it was just, my heart goes out to him. I'm not being mean. It was just, it really, so somebody as big as that, I think he just, had a $4 million launch. Still, what I mean, didn't think it all the way through. Yay for fast action, but, just be careful of how you're, what you're listening to. And everybody has an opinion, and not to say that my way is the right way, but I'm certainly big on strategy and making sure that we're driving. It was just because all of those affiliates, because when people mail for the people, those are called affiliates or JV partners. All of those 5,000 that mailed for them all lost all of their affiliate commissions because now there was a new link. So, I mean, I don't know for a fact. I think they all have good integrity, so I'm sure it worked out in the end. But can you imagine if you're, like for me, if I blew up 5,000 affiliate relationships, I'd be sunk. You know what I mean? So, just be aware of doing things like that and being very strategic. All right, looks like I saw Mike firing up again, so let me go take a look. Excuse me. Brandee, I know that you mentioned Webinar Jam. I've heard that people have some issues with it, and I also heard Casey Zeman has a great Google Hangout product, making it streamlined for new users. Any recommendations on this? Yeah, great question, Shane. Actually, I think Casey did a review of the comparisons between the two. Casey's has been out for a couple years. He was doing really a, like, I don't want to call it evergreen because I think that's the other one, but he's been at it for a while. He's been tweaking it, and then he was one of the ones that was out there on the bleeding edge with me that launched. I mean, he's had it out for a couple of years, but he really repurposed, like really structured it to Hangouts in a really simple way. Well over 6 months ago, and he's been updating it consistently. But I do think that he did a comparison of the two. So I think that I'm almost pretty sure that I saw him post where he does a side-by-side objective comparison of, what each one does. So that's why when I tell a lot of people, like figure out which one is going to be best serve your purposes. I banged around in Webinar Jam day before yesterday, just didn't have time to really go full tilt on it, and this kind of works for me right now. I've looked at, they have good analytics. So I think it's really like doing your due diligence and seeing which one is going to work best for you and what your goals are. Do you need the analytics? Do you need the autoresponders? What things do you have in place? Do you have tripwires and funnels and upsells and downsells and all of that kind of stuff, and seeing which one's going to serve your purpose is the best. For me, it's, drive traffic to a landing page, give me your email, come to the Watch Live page, and off I go. So I don't have any of the upsells, downsells, one click this or that or funnel. I don't have any of that stuff going on. So this works for me. I'm going to look at both, and actually both of them will be in the course with an objective overview from I have actually a training with Casey over at Easy Webinar Plugin, and then one of the camp Webinar Jam are going to do a training as well. So both will be in there that you can look at. I want to say by the end of the week, probably the beginning of the week. I already have Casey's done. I just need to get Webinar Jam done, and I recommend both of them in my course. It's just the same thing. Don't do anything like with anything. Like just because Brandee says it's right doesn't mean it's right. It's whatever's right for you and your business. Let's see. Sheila, what I mean is, can you have a live conversation with another person and have split screens or back and forth so that the viewers can see two parties talking, like a talk show with two different people in two different locations? Absolutely. And actually, I'm so glad, I don't think I set the cameraman app right. So Mike may have been, yeah, Mike, you may have been at the bottom of the screen this whole time. Oh, I goofed. Yikes, I didn't check that before we went on air. Yeah, so yes, so Mike, you probably were over my lower third this whole time, which has been one of my pet peeves, talking about watching a train wreck, and now here I am, like blushing, and my face making me all sweaty, because yeah, there's a cameraman app, so you could have the entire film strip shown at the bottom, so you can see all of it. It is voice activated, so it'll flip back and forth on its own. My challenge was that if that happens, just like the lightest tap, it keeps on going back and forth, so you get motion sickness. So ideally, you want to do what's called blue boxing. So you just click on a little thumbnail that makes sure that the main person's in the window that's speaking, and then you click on the other person to make sure that they're in the window speaking. You can have the film strip displayed, like when I was showing that Branson slide. You can have that film strip displayed. It's a personal choice. There's a little bit of formatting issues going on lately with Hangouts, so it may have cut off. If I did, in fact, leave the cameraman app on, Mike may have been sitting on my Brandee Sweesy over here this whole time, or not. I'm not really sure. Okay, so Mike just said it's full screen. Oh, okay, good. So yes, there is a way to do that, but I just got I get all embarrassed because I just messed that up. But Mike says it's okay. I gotta know Mike always has my back. So yeah, so that works out. So you can do both, but just be cautious of the formatting when they do that. Let's see. Hi, Brandee. How much is your course, and is it a long learning curve? Thanks for asking that, Ron. No, not a huge learning curve. It is. Let me see. Put up the modules. No, I took these. I took every single one and really broke it out, and then I did like the quick and easy. I called it the quick and dirty. So there's like a 7 minute, like, let's just talk about the buttons. And then I go through that. But then for each thing, like in a producer, I'll talk more about what you need to know as a producer. In a web show, I talk about how do you format a web show and scheduling. In the webinar one, I talk a little bit more about the psychology of selling on that. So, it's a lot more of marketing, branding, psychology, that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, I learned in my whole strategy was it's not, it's 90% strategy, 10% tool. And I have the quick and easy guide to Hangouts. It's like 20 pages, but I think it's about more like 10 like snapshots of like, oh no, something just went wrong. I need to, what page is that on? I have a seamless guest experience, like the easiest way to get your guests in, whether you're doing webinars, web shows, product line, whatever you're doing. I have a swipe file that you send to your guests. You just trade out your name in and send that to your guest, which makes it like so, like I'm all about simplicity. So that's really my claim to fame. You don't hear me get into a lot of the, oh, and look, this can do that. And oh, again, who wants all that confusion? You need to take action. Let's see. I also have a private Facebook group, which I absolutely beyond adore. Most of them were in here today because I haven't been on a Hangout in a while. But the private Facebook group, they've been around for 6 months. There's roughly 100 people in there. They're all geniuses. That's where you get access to me. You get access to them. They know how to answer questions a lot of the times, especially some of your, like the easier questions. Sometimes I'll get tagged. I'm in there, most frequently. I try to be in there. So they're a really active group. So they'll be able to help you out with a lot of stuff too, and that's always great access to me. And of course, you get my swipe files and my checklists. And yes, so to answer your question, Ron, I'm going to be done midnight tonight. So the early bird pricing is $4.97. There should be a button below the video now. And because I'm so excited and it's been a while since I have done a live hangout, I'm also offering a bonus for those of you that buy today, is 2 live Q&A calls with me personally to talk about the specifics of your business. So it won't be like, how do I use the cameraman app? It'll more be like, hey, I'm a realtor. What do you think I should do? Hey, my list is 200 people. What do you think I should do? I want to sell a product. What do you think I should do? One of my clients, I want this client to hire me and I don't know how to close them. What do you think I should do? So that's what the bonus, more the bonus calls will be about. And because I'm adding more modules this week to the course, we're doing a live training on Monday at 2 p.m. to go over the course curriculum. So talking about your learning curve, Ron, we're actually going to go over what's going to be the best approach. So we'll do a live training. It'll be a group call, and we're going to talk about the curriculum because the course is not laid out in do module 1, then do module 2. I very much set the intention that you should be able to go right into the members area and say, oh, I just want to know how to do Webbies. Or, oh, I just want to know how to do a show. Oh, I just need to learn how to do the Hangout Toolbox. Or I just need to learn how to do this. So that you can pick those modules instead of having to go through the whole long 20-minute module to try to find out one simple thing. So that's why it's laid out the way it is. So it's not really linear. It's much more of this is how it's going to go. Let's see. All right, so Mike just gave me the thumbs up that there's no more questions. We have that 45-second to 1-minute delay, so I will give it just 1 more minute. If anybody has any questions, any comments, any feedback. Okay, let's see here. All right. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and I'll give it just 30 more seconds. If you have any questions, post them below. Once I end the broadcast, I will go ahead and head over there and also jump in and answer. I know Mike's been doing a great job over there. And if Mike wants to come on screen or not, he can and say hi. Mike was my fabulous producer. He's been through both Producers Academy and Elite Producers Academy and done such a great job with both, and he's a rock star. And he's one of the admins in the Facebook group, so you probably will want to tag him even before you tag me for any techie stuff. But anyway, All right, I want to thank you guys so much for being here and spending this short period of time with me. Again, if you have any questions, post them below, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye.